Time now for the Educated Retirement Show with your host, Jay Kaplan. Jay discusses reverse mortgages and can answer your questions at 951-922-3532. Call lines are open at 951-922-3532. And now here's Jay.
Well, good afternoon, and let me just start off the show with reminding you that the future is now. And we'll get a little into more of that, but welcome to the Educated Retirement Radio here on KMET 1490, where we contemplate retirement and how to best prepare for that retirement and how to best stay successfully retired. And the future is now comes from, and hopefully you know this, our favorite New Year's movie. There's two of them, but last night we watched Hudsucker Proxy from the Coen brothers, and the other one is Radio Days from Woody Allen. Both of them revolve around New Year's Eve or come into, New Year's Eve-ish. I think I showed this last week. This, to me, is a masterpiece. It's with Paul Newman and Tim Robbins, and the master, the head guy up in heaven is he's running a clock, and it's kind of steampunk too, because it's a huge clock that runs on steam. And I know most people think that Tim Robbins, that the show Shawshank Redemption was his best and most noted film, and although that is a great film, I would put both Hudsucker Proxy and The Player ahead of that. And I'm not going to get too much into that right now, but The Player is such an incredible piece of art that it's about making movies, and the movie they're making is the one you're watching. And why do you want to call me at 866-955-2233? Well, you want to do that? Not today, though. Spend it relaxing today. You want to do that because knowledge is power. And what happens when you call? We just talk a little bit, and that's the end of that. My day job is at the Loan Source, NMLS number 384565, DRE 792630. And as a reminder, of course, theeducatedretirement.com, or for short, DRHECM, Dr. Heckham, Home Equity Conversion Mortgage.com is another way, but just call me or just email or whatever. Today is, as if you didn't know, New Year's Day, but I had a question, and I wanted to know, why is January 1st instead of whatever else the first day of the year on our calendars? And at first I thought it had something to do with the rebirth of the sun, the one that's up in the upstairs. Well, maybe both all of them are upstairs, but the big yellow one. And the rebirth of the sun is also the winter solstice. It yet may be, but the historical answer lies with Julius Caesar et Bruto, who in 46 BC instituted the New Year holiday to honor the Roman god of beginnings. Let me show you his picture first. This is Janus, the god of beginnings. And of course, I know this very well from being a film buff. It's the only way I am a buff at all, because of the great film, company that preserves and keeps older films. Anyway, Janus is depicted with two faces, one looking forward and one back. So that's New Year's. The Romans, this is what they would do. They would exchange gifts and attend raucous parties for New Year's. Not that much different than today, but they also offered sacrifices, and that, knows if that's different or not. I think so. In order to align the Roman calendar with the sun, Caesar added 90 extra days. I thought somebody else did before. Anyway, to the calendar that introduced the new Julian, after himself, calendar that more closely aligned with the sun and our current calendar. And the current calendar is the whatever, I forgot. Gregorian calendar, or what is, yeah, something like that. I mean, before that, the new year was celebrated in March, and that's not because of my birthday being in March. Also today is the Intergalactic Bloody Mary Day. Now, my son just texted me to let me know that. I added the intergalactic, but boy, I sure miss getting out there, but I haven't had one drop of alcohol all year, doctor's orders. And right here, we do believe in challenging the status quo. Families and people need to be active, not reactive. Now, we're going to go over some birthdays that we could not last week because of sunspots or aliens. I'm not sure which. I think aliens got in the way of our internet connection, and we lost about 10-15 minutes of the show. So we're just going to pretend nobody was really born today. Well, that's, of course, that's
it was
not.
aliens.
It was aliens. Okay. So if there's somebody really important that we want to talk about that we missed today, so be it. And we'll talk about it next week. But this is, well, when I say this is, I'm talking about Christmas Day, which was our last show, December 25th. Humphrey Bogart joined this earth in 1899 and left us in 1957. And he was an actor in more than 50 films. Now, one interesting thing is Warner Brothers changed his birth date to January 23rd instead of Christmas Day, which was his real birthday, because they felt any man born on Christmas Day could not be a villain on the screen. Figure that one out. Anyway, the American Film Institute has selected him as the greatest male star of classic American cinema. And I mentioned something about him last week because it had so much to do with me. In school, he was cited for smoking. No, I didn't smoke, but I do enjoy a couple of cigars every now and then now. He was drinking and doing poorly in his studies. And yes, I understand that. And after returning from the Navy, he tried screenwriting and production with his close buddy, Spencer Tracy. With all else failing, he tried acting, and we now know the rest of the story. He won Best Oscar for American Queen, African Queen, well, one country or another, and was nominated for a couple more films. He's done so many. Just going to show you a smattering, okay? Keep them coming faster. All right. Treasure of Sierra Madre is, of course, a great one. And I also have a radio broadcast with him. He's in it on the radio. We do listen to these quite a bit, to tell you the truth, and it makes really great background when you're trying to whatever. There's another radio show of Casablanca. And here is one of many, many records of Casablanca and other film scores for Humphrey Bogart films. And another one of these, okay. All right, now, the Maltese Falcon. We've got a better set, but this is good enough. There were 3 Maltese Falcons made. This was the 3rd one. And it, of course, had to do with Sam Spade from Dashiell Hammett. And he was also directed by Treasure of Sierra Madre, but he was also in The Big Sleep. And I have a telephone that we got from an auction from Warner Brothers. It's on my desk, but it's over there. We'll show it another time. It's kind of cool.
Here's the receiver.
Yeah, there's the receiver of that with this. Anyway, it's got a bunch of push buttons on it and things like that. And there was also Key Largo, and I had a cousin named Margot, so it was Margot from Key Largo. but that's another great one. So, we've got Philip Marlowe and Sam Spade, the two, and of course, The Big Sleep was Philip Marlowe, Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, Sam Spade. So the two main detectives from the two major cities in Los Angeles. No, in California. Oh, I sound more prejudiced for Southern California, don't I? He was also in the Caine Mutiny, and I believe, I don't think he won the Academy Award, but he certainly was nominated. One really interesting thing that I can think of is a point about the filming of Beat the Devil, which was about some convicts that escaped, I believe, and they ended up on a island that there was a volcano about to blow at 4 o'clock. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Anyway, when Bogart, during the filming of that, probably late in the filming, he was in a serious car accident that knocked out most of his teeth. See, mine just came out over time, but so be it. His was knocked out all at once. He couldn't speak. His part, they did photograph him, but Peter Sellers stepped in to record Bogart's dialogue that he had to miss. I thought that was pretty cool. And Peter Sellers, a whole nother one. But, anyway, Rod Serling was also boarded 1924, on Christmas Day, 1924 to 1975. Anyway, and like I said last week, we had listened to the rendition of Twilight Zone from Manhattan Transfer, but there is a whole lot of records. This is volume 4. Okay, I'm just looking. Volume 3, I may have more of them. Music. Jerry Goldsmith did a lot of it there, and Bernard Herrmann, and Nathan Van Cleve, and Leonard Roseman. So, and here's volume 2. And yes, I have volume 1, but I couldn't find it right now. I mean, they all kind of look a lot like that. Just gonna see Bernard Herrmann, Jerry Goldsmith, Nathan Scott. There's some great people on all of those. And that television show went from 1959 to 1964. But there was, I think after 4 years, it was canceled because the guy in charge of the network didn't like it. So they put on a sitcom that failed and they brought him back. So, but Rod also wrote some other plays, including Requiem for a Heavyweight, which I've seen so many times. I don't think I have a copy here. 7 Days in May, which I do have a copy of but couldn't find, and Planet of the Apes. So there we go. Here's an original soundtrack, but at least, it brings back some memories. Jerry Goldsmith again. Gee, what a surprise. So there. So, and of course, how many of the, not versions, but it went on for Planet of the Apes, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then it was rebooted, first time by Tim Burton, and then again. So, but Rod's first choice for this series, The Twilight Zone, was The Time Element, which I think is also a good name. But I think Twilight Zone may be a little bit better, and I hate to say that because Rod's listening. I know he's a regular listener to this show from wherever he is. But the first writers he hired were Richard Matheson and Charles Beaumont. We covered Charles Beaumont, I believe, a week or so ago. But Charles wrote as The Howling Man and so many others. Richard Matheson, we've talked about many times. Here's one. Richard Matheson, I know, wrote I Am Legend, which has been done like 3 times in this country. The first one starring Yeah, that art collector guy.
Heston? Charlie
Oh,
Heston?
before that,
Oh, Vincent Price.
Vincent Price, and then the second one was Omega Man, and the third one, not that long ago, was actually called I Am Legend. Now here is the man that looks like what the stuff that he actually wrote. And then he wrote Somewhere in Time and so many others, but so be it. Anyway, stars who appeared in the series were William Shatner, Dennis Hopper, Charles Bronson, Robert Redford, Lee Marvin, Leonard Nimoy, Martin Landau, Donald Pleasant, George Takei, Inger Stevens, Elizabeth Montgomery, and Anne Francis. And there's some honorable mentions, and these honorable mentions are actually today. They don't go back to Christmas. They are actually today. J.D. Salinger, which of course I read 100 years ago, and he joined us in 1919. He left us in 2010, Catcher in the Rye, which most humans have read. And don't forget Banana Fish. I know that was part of a short story name that was outstanding. Dana Andrews was also born in 1909 and left us in 1992. Now, I know most of you people are going to think of such great films as Laura, but oh no, not here. I'm going to remind you about the pinnacle of his success, Night of the Demon. All right, what do you think? Now, usually, and many times, it's just not a good idea to show the demon himself. It can usually be scarier without. However, the director of this film was Jacques Tourneur. Jacques Tourneur, I don't know if he got his start, but in my mind, he did with Val Lewton. Val Lewton probably, was one of the best, if not, the greatest. Well, at RKO anyway, he certainly was the greatest of the horror film, or they were all B movies, horror, but they were great, and they were a lot more psychological than they were with monsters. Of course, Cat People, I Walked with a Zombie, which is kind of a remake of Jane Eyre. The Leopard Man, The Seventh Victim, The Ghost Ship, Curse of the Cat People, Isle of the Dead, Bedlam, and The Body Snatcher. So he went from 1942, 43, 44, 45, and 46. And I mean, if you don't know Val Lewton's work, look it up. I think we're talking about a standout here. And, of course, Frank Langella, that we know of, was the introduction of a romantic Dracula. And Javier Cugat was born in 1900 and left us in 1990. Even I can figure out how long he lived. I've got a bunch of the. I've got like 300 or 400 or 500 records of just nostalgic stuff. This is Columbia LP when they were still called LPs, different than the RIAA curve of today's. But there's a slight. I mean, look how neat that picture is, really. And here's a pretty neat caricature of Javier Cugat. Let me put him next to me. What do you think? Who's got the bigger nose? Hard to tell sometimes, isn't it? Okay, and there's only one other person. So Alfred Stieglitz was one of the best photographers and very famous. And this book we have is almost too heavy for me to pick up. And there it is. See? And there's a couple of pictures that are, I don't know how important these are overall, but I will try. I guess this is a self-portrait of him. And let's see if we can get a close look at that, or a closer look at that. Okay, and I believe of his lady, who was Georgia O'Keeffe, and did a lot. Now, he popularized Manhattan a great deal. Speaking of Manhattan, Hudsucker Proxy opens with 5 minutes of gorgeous, although it's not real, but it doesn't matter, gorgeous snow falling on the building skyscrapers of New York City, and then goes into a little bit of the credits with the gorgeous ballet music from Khachaturian, the Spartacus ballet. All right, here's Georgia. Georgia on my mind. I think we can see that. But, man, I'm getting my exercise for the day. Anyway, let me show you one more time of the cover. And we have a couple more minutes, actually. You said there's a couple more things you had to show, right? I'm talking to the director of our show, which is, NASA Nelly. But anyway, today in history, which would have been Christmas Day, or December 23rd, close enough, was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And I would like to show this one more time. Excuse me. Boy, that sounded like thunder, but it wasn't. Anyway, again, this is, I think, one of the best pieces of art direction ever done for a film in the history of film. And, that was directed by Disney's competitor's son, Richard Fleischer. Fleischer, of course, did those great Superman cartoons, which I've got all of them, and they are great. But 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea won Oscars for production design, no kidding, and best visual effects. The Innocents also came out on this day. Now, The Innocents was the Joyce short novel, and it was, who started The Innocents? That was Deborah Carr and some other people. Here's another one of the still living characters from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, not to be confused with the face hugger from Alien. And The Innocents, it came out in a movie about a year ago or so, and that movie was pretty good. What's the real name of that again? Because they changed it for The Innocents.
House of the Red Eye or something.
No, that's the one that's on. That's okay. Everybody can figure it out if they want to. There's a series on Netflix right now, The Haunting of Bly House, which is another version of that exact same story. I'm still going to go back and recommend The Innocents as the best of the series, and that'll be that. But you know what? We're going to take a break in about a minute or less, and we have again a pre-recorded the second half of our show, because I didn't want to ask anybody other than us to make time on New Year's Day. And that will be Tom Markle and Bill Morris talking about the 3 legs of the stool of success. Bill has a book, and Tom is like Mr. Entrepreneur, or as I heard before, serial entrepreneur. And they do talk about, mental, physical, and spiritual. So good timing for this, and thank you very, very much. Let's all of us have a great new year. We don't need to talk about last year. I think this one is one, last year is going to be one we never forget. Some of that is coming over into next year, and we have to just do our best for that not to happen again. And wear a mask. We're not political here on this show, so wear a mask for one reason, and that is to stop the lockdown. You don't like the lockdown? Wear a mask. I'm going crazy from the lockdown, but you know what? Got to wear a mask. All of you, let's all of us, Sean too, that means you, have a great 2021. And I really appreciate all of you folks who have joined us on this New Year's Day. Let's make the most of all of this next year. And thank you one more time. Bye-bye.